like to call to order the Reidsville City Council meeting for Tuesday, September 10, 2024. First item on the agenda is invocation by the Reverend Fairley, pastor of Zion Baptist Church, 807 Piedmont Street, Reidsville, North Carolina, and the Mayor Pro Tem's pastor.
That's my pastor, folks. That's my pastor.
To Mayor Gorham, my neighbor, certainly to Brother Brown, my fellow church member, to council members, to our city manager, to our city clerk, and to our attorney, to the city citizens of Reidsville, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. It is an honor to be with you all on tonight. And I have to apologize, of course, because as the mayor said, I am a pastor of Zion Baptist Church. I've been here now a little over 3 months, but I'm honored to be here tonight, but I'm double booked. So I will be excusing myself following the prayer, but I assure you that although this is my first time, it will not be my last time here with you all on tonight. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm thankful for the opportunity and the welcome that we have received, my family and I, since we have been here. We've been to football games and to all the shops, and we've even been to Danville. And so we are settling in real well. So glad to be here. Will you all pray with me? Almighty and triune God, we give you thanks and praise for all of your mighty works. You're loving, good, and gracious. Thank you for creating and sustaining us day by day. Thank you that you made us in your image to exist in community with other people. We thank you for our city. Thank you for our elected officials, the businesses, the churches, the families, and the individuals that make our city the great place that it is. Thank you for bringing us together today in a spirit of generosity. May we honor one another by keeping an open mind. May we voice our truth and listen with an open heart. May we discern your will to unite us in a fruitful outcome. I pray for this council meeting tonight. Give the council members wisdom and guidance as they deliberate on the items before them. May every decision be righteous in your sight, for our benefit and for your glory. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor.
Could we all rise? The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have 3 items.
Thank you.
Anyone that would like to have one of the 3 items pulled?
No.
If not, we'll take a motion.
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, those in favor, raise your right hand. It carries. The next item on the agenda is consideration of industrial reserve and cost sharing with Rockingham County and corresponding budget ordinance amendment. Enclosure 1, Montana Brown, Marketing and Economic Development Director.
Good evening, Mayor Gorham, ladies and gentlemen of City Council, Madam Manager Moore. It's a pleasure to be in front of you all this evening. Just going to jump right in. So on July 17th, Rockingham County proposed a joint purchase of 11.81 acre parcel beside Reidsville Industrial Park within the city of Reidsville, or with the city of Reidsville. The Citizens for Economic Development have since entered an option to purchase agreement and have begun a due diligence period. Rockingham County has requested that the city of Reidsville share the cost of this process. A quote for a phase 1 environmental assessment, as well as a preliminary subsurface exploration and geotechnical assessment We've received a quote from ECS for that, and the price, and the requested cost share for the city of Reidsville is $5,400. If everything comes back positive after due diligence, I intend to speak with you again regarding the actual purchase of that land. So this is not for the purchase of the land. This is to assist with the due diligence of that. Additionally, during the last week of June, the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality visited Reidsville Industrial Park. NCDEQ reached back out on July 1st, noting that there were some washout areas on Lot 11. While they did not issue a violation, they are requiring that work be performed to stabilize the eroded area and to clean out the stormwater basins. We have received a quote from KBS Earthworks Incorporated in the price of $45,275.20 for erosion control remediation. Reidsville's share of this cost would total $22,637.60. While speaking about this process with the industrial park, Reidsville also discussed an additional joint venture with Rockingham County for sewer expansion study. Public Works Director Josh Beck received a quote from McGill Associates for a total of $75,000. We have requested that Rockingham County cover half of the cost of this study. The expected cost for Reidsville will be $37,500 from the sewer reserve account. At this time, these items need to be completed in conjunction with Rockingham County to better position ourselves for future industrial growth. I request the $550,000 received from the sale of the former site known as the Equestrian Park to be committed for economic development purposes. The intent of reserving these funds is to have a funding source for activities that may include site due diligence, engineering and construction fees, the optioning and or purchasing of industrial land, and other pertinent economic development projects that increase the city's ability to attract private investment. Please see your proposed budget ordinance amendment in the agenda packet. Thank you for your attention to these items. Rockingham County Commissioners approved these above items during their last meeting on September 3rd. City Council approval tonight of the attached budget ordinance amendments should allow the city to take steps in expanding our capacity in preparation for future growth. Please let me know if I can provide you with any further information. Thank y'all.
Any questions of Mr. Brown? Seeing none, we have a motion on the budget ordinance amendment number 2. We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Carries. Next item on the agenda, consideration of change order for wastewater treatment plant's Headworks project and corresponding capital project ordinance amendment. Enclosure 2, Josh Beck, Public Works.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. It's hard to believe it's been almost a month since Tropical Storm Debbie came through, but unfortunately that was a pretty long evening, night. Of course, we talked about this a little bit, 2-on-2s, but just to reiterate some of that. So during that rainfall event, the water plant received 5 3/4 inches was reported on that particular day. During the evening hours of that day, the wastewater plant reported an inflow of about 12 million gallons per day rate, not overall inflow, but actual rate. During those evening hours, plant staff were working on actually the effluent, so the other side of the plant, dealing with some issues there, trying to get the stormwater that was infiltrating the sewer system out of the plant as fast as we could. And meanwhile, we had a mechanical failure at our Headworks side of the plant, or our influent location, in which the bar screen failed. It sheared a pin due to the number of rags and items that shouldn't necessarily be in the wastewater system from the heavy flushing of the storm. During this time, as that built up and that screen failed, the water began to overflow the Headworks, and of course we are constructing the new Headworks facility that you guys have recently approved. Had a pretty significant hole there, and it began to fill that up. Roughly that hole measured about 12 foot in depth at the time. Of course, plant staff as well as the contractor, Jay Cumby, came on site about 9 o'clock that evening. We began installing bypass pumping to mitigate that issue and then proceeded to pump down that particular area. During the pumping of removing that water, obviously we undercut, as we started to pull all that water out, it began to undercut some of the footings and foundations in that area under construction. So the next day we called both our soils engineers and our structural engineers to come and evaluate that particular situation and make a recommendation as to what, if anything, we needed to do. In your agenda packet, of course, is the report from SKA in which they're asking that we remove some of the contaminated soils in that area and then shore up the existing footings and foundation with a flowable fill. Really to ensure that this structure is there and good to go for many, many years in the future. As a quick reminder, we've spent roughly $1.5 million to date on this current construction, and we have about $3 million more to go. The contractor is still working, but needs to make these necessary improvements that are outlined in your agenda packet so that we can continue and proceed with the project and have that structure in place for 20, 30, 40 years in the future. So that cost came in just under $70,000. In our capital project ordinance amendment, city manager has approval up to $25,000, so it certainly far exceeds that. So in your agenda, if you will, is the requesting the approval of that change order, and then obviously a budget amendment where we will move $70,000 out of contingency into the construction line to pay for this work so that we can keep the project moving forward. I'll be glad to answer any questions, concerns you may have.
Any questions of Mr. Beck?
Mr. Beck?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there anything before all of this happened that we could have done to avoid it?
So, again, the particular situation, staff actually never left for the day. It is something we are working with our staff on. Unfortunately, it was a situation where I'll say that we were focused on the campfire that was out of control and not watching the forest fire that was taking hold behind us. So we are working with staff to make sure that they continue those rounds like they should, even when something's wrong. Elsewhere on the plant, we have to continue to do our monitoring as we should, make our rounds. So we have talked with staff about that. I don't know that anything we could have done would have actually resolved it. Again, our plant can handle 7.5 million gallons per day, and that's why I mentioned the rate that our influent pumps reported was 12 million. That's almost double what their capabilities are. And so again, the focus of that night initially was to get all 4 of those pumps running to ensure we were pumping it out as fast as we possibly could so that we weren't getting an overflow. And then, of course, this failure occurred, I won't say simultaneously, but shortly thereafter and caused this situation. So.
Well, we certainly appreciate you and your staff. We know they worked hard.
Yeah, it was a long night. We left about 2 or 3 in the morning. I don't really remember now. I got cookout right before they closed, so whatever time they about 1:50.
Thank you again.
Yes, ma'am.
We were only laughing because you laughed. Because I know it was a serious situation.
You get hungry after fighting it that long.
So the total of $70,000 will make it come in compliance with OSHA and bring us up.
So the $70,000, just to be clear, we have contingency funds. We're not asking for additional funds. I want to be clear at this time. Actually, we've been very fortunate. The project started in January. Here we are the 1st of September, and Summer has only signed 1 change order. It was actually 3 very small things that we lumped together for about $18,000. So that's all the contingency we have spent to date. So, knock on wood, we've been fortunate thus far. So we have this extra fund sitting there. Still have a long ways to go with the project. The bulk of the equipment is not slated to come in until November. But yes, this will make sure, my primary concern is to make sure this doesn't settle and crack or have another issue, especially after we expend extensive amount of more money, and then we have to possibly remove that or do something that would actually cause us, you know, additional funds beyond this to make it right and last for many, many years.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Bill, is it necessary to do two motions here, or can we do it all in the amendment? Okay. All right, do we have a motion for the wastewater treatment plant Headworks project?
Motion.
Got a motion?
Second.
And we got a tie for second. We'll give it to the Mayor Pro Tem. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. And do we have a motion for the corresponding capital project ordinance amendment?
So moved.
Got a motion? And we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Next item on the agenda, consideration of resolution requesting statewide contingency funds for improved lighting at US 29 Bond Street. Interchange. Enclosure 3, Josh Beck.
So if you guys have been out there, you've probably noticed that a pretty substantial part of the bridge is now gone on Barnes Street, crossing 29. For Public Works, believe it or not, we started this early, almost 2 years ago. And of course, at that time, we discussed several things. Of course, the water line relocation that's now fully complete. We've been on that line for probably 2 or 3 months now. And then at one point I brought to you guys some betterments for the bridge to be widened for sidewalks. And then of course at the completion of the project they'll also put the city seal on the bridge abutments so that as you're on 29 you can see that. During those discussions as well though, we talked about lighting, interchange lighting, and to be clear, that's the very, very tall 120-foot mass poles that you see in some of the intersections at your clover leaves that we're all kind of familiar with, and then some end of the ramp lighting as well. And so we got that cost in addition to all the other betterments that you guys did approve, but honestly it came in $450,000 at that time, and that was just outside of our budget. So we'd never presented that to you guys. But since then, Summer and I think some other city council members went and met with Phil Berger recently, and he mentioned that there might be some state contingency funds available to help pay for this if the council would agree to the ongoing operation maintenance cost, obviously to pay for the actual utilities, the lights that it costs to burn them, and then that maintenance agreement should bulbs go out and need to be replaced, etc. So it's going to run roughly $10,000 a year, $6,200 for the annual energy cost and $3,100 for the maintenance cost. So as part of this, you would be agreeing to take that on moving forward. But again, with the growth and potential going on at this interchange, we thought it was a great idea if they would pay the upfront construction costs to illuminate this interchange, as this is one of our larger ones for sure, and help people going 29 from Greensboro, Danville, or the reverse, that Reidsville is open in that area. Come shop, stay with us, whatever it might be. And so there is a resolution attached in your budget packet there that will cover that if that's the desire. But we think this is kind of a win-win. Again, Senator Berger's office has reached out. We worked on this resolution, and be glad to answer any questions you may have. Obviously, we go back through the design. This was only initially looked at, so Public Works would work directly with DOT and their designers to fully figure this out, and then, of course, work on the construction pace.
Any questions of Mr. Beck?
Just have a comment. I think the better lighting will certainly make it safer in that area.
Absolutely.
And that's an area that we want to grow. So I think it's wise on our part.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll take a motion for the resolution.
Motion for the resolution.
We have a motion. Second. And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Next, we have consideration of the water treatment plant, whole plant generator project, including, it's in Enclosure 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 items there. Consideration of resolution accepting a state reserve loan. Chris Phillips, Assistant City Manager of Administration, Finance Director.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is one of the 4 major water treatment projects that we've had in the works for some time, and we've gotten this one to the point that we're at tonight, which is actually approving a contract for construction and approving the additional funding that's going to be required for it. So I think it would be prudent just to take a few minutes to talk about this project and how we got to where we're at before we talk about the 4 items that actually need to be considered by City Council tonight. So if you'll give me a few minutes, I'd like to go through that. First thing I just want to say, we call this the whole plant generator project, which was probably not the best name. We'll blame the people who don't work anymore for that name, but it's a lot more going on than just a generator. The plant, has got some age to it, and this actually will replace some of the last existing electrical work at the plant. Some pieces have been done here and there as needed, but this will replace some of the final pieces that are original. So that's, really important. But there's also some things, there's a switch gear, and there's variable frequency drives. Those allow us to use our pumps halfway or 3/4 way. Right now, with our pumps at the plant, they're either on or they're off. So they're wide open or they're off. And this actually will give you kind of like a gas pedal where you can give it a little bit of pump action or, 3/4. Just really be able to manage the flow coming out a little easier with this. So it's some really important stuff. Not just, you say generator, people may think about, the generator they plug in to run their refrigerator, and it's not exactly the same thing. There's a lot more to this project. But just run through a few points. The needs at the plant were being assessed because this equipment is getting close to the end of life. In February of 2021, remember, we had an ice storm and actually brought the needs to the forefront because we did have a generator that came close to failure. It took a little while to get it up and going. We had to actually do a 24-hour boil notice while we were waiting on some cultures to make sure everything was okay. Fortunately, it was. But that just brought this really to the forefront that we had to do something. And so the initial assessment showed that this project would be about $3.2 million. And when the federal American Rescue Plan funds became available to the state, we were very fortunate that Representative Reese Pearl was able to secure the $3.2 million through the General Assembly for this project. So we actually recognized that funding in January of 2022, and first thing we did was to get engineers, request for qualifications for the engineering firm. Arcadis is the firm that was selected. Their contract was $720,000, and that's taking the project from design through completion. So we had them on board. We realized during the planning phase, the engineering phase, that the $3.2 million was not going to be enough. Obviously, you all know there's been inflationary increases, supply chain issues, demand for construction. We're not the only people that have American Rescue Plan funds. So it's got a little bit more competitive out there with folks doing this kind of work. So we thought the project now, so the $3.2 million was going to be $5.7. So we knew we were going to have to find some additional funding. So the state had told us they did have some state reserve loan dollars available, which is probably going to be the most effective way to, other than getting more grant dollars, which we were not successful, to get an interest rate lower than market through the state. So we were running parallel trying to get additional funding. So when the project design was approved at the state level, bid packages were prepared and advertised. The project was bid out as a lump sum project. and we have to follow federal uniform guidance for purchasing because this is federal dollars. So we had to have 3 bids before we could open bids. So the first time we bid out, we actually only received 1 bid. So we couldn't open it. We have no idea what that first price would have been. We had to rebid it. The second time we bid it out, we received 2 bids. When you bid a federal job the second time, you're allowed to open to 1 or 2 bids. You don't have to have 3 because you've gone through the process twice. We did get 2 bids, and the low bid for the project came in just a tad over $7 million, $7,019,000. And then when you add back the other costs of engineering, we're getting for a project of right at $8.2 million, $8,198,000. So obviously we have a shortfall of $4,998,000. So that brings us to where we are tonight. So the low bid of the construction, $7,019,000 is valid until September 16th, which tonight is the 10th. So we're about 6 days away from that bid no longer being valid. The state did offer us a loan for $4,498,000, which is what we needed to fund the rest of the project. The offer has a 20-year payback, and the interest rate is expected to be around 2%. They've still not confirmed the actual interest rate. Some of the loan documents say not to exceed 4%. We were told 2% verbally, so I'll let you all know as soon as we have the exact interest rate from that. That loan did go to the LGC this afternoon in their monthly meeting, and it was approved as part of their agenda. There is a $98,000 loan fee that goes to the Department of Environmental Quality with that loan. The ARP grant, I said that Representative Pearl was able to get us $3.2 million, which we're very fortunate and grateful for, but those are ARPA dollars, American Rescue Plan dollars. American Rescue Plan dollars have to be obligated by December 31st of 2024. They have to be spent by December 31st of 2026. So what an obligation means from the federal level is that we have a contract in hand. So we kind of are, a little bit up against the wall on the deadline. The contract that we have that expires in a week, if we don't accept that contract, if you all don't agree to accept that contract tonight, and we start going through the process of trying to go out and bid again to see if we could get a better price, which we're not guaranteed to get, we probably would not have enough time to get everything back before the December deadline, and we take a chance of losing the $3.2 million that is given to us as grant dollars. So tonight we're asking you to do 4 things. The first one is to accept the $4,998,000 state reserve loan. The second thing we're asking you to do, the state actually said that we need to do a resolution to accept the $3.2 million American Rescue Plan. That was given to us through the General Assembly. Council accepted it and did a capital project ordinance to recognize it, but they need a formal resolution now that the design phase has been completed and accepted by the state. They sent us the resolution, so that was a little bit easier to do a resolution to accept the grant. The fourth thing we're asking you to do is a capital project ordinance amendment. So we have a capital project for the original $3.2 million. So the ordinance amendment will add this additional $4,998,000 from the loan proceeds, and then the corresponding expenses of construction and the other items that are needed to do the project. And then the fourth thing that Mr. Beck will actually present to you all is to award the construction contract to the low bidder, which again was the $7,019,000. So I'll be glad to answer any questions I can. Now we'll move on to the first item. If you all have questions. Now, so quick synopsis of 3.5 years of work to get this project to the point of awarding it.
Any questions?
I have one question. I understand that the grant is obligated for us to award, I guess, by December 31st of this year, and then this money has to be spent by 26.
Right.
Is that going to be enough time, or does that just have to be obligated but not necessarily finished?
It has to be spent by December 31st of 26. So, 2 years feels like a long time, A project of this size, 2 years, we think is adequate unless they run into something. But right now, ordering equipment, you do get to some delays. That takes a little longer than it used to, but it should be an adequate time to get it spent. The deadline we're really most concerned about is getting it obligated, because if you all do not want to do that tonight, we really don't have enough time. So honestly, if you don't award this tonight, which it just means we're going to postpone this project for some time, and it could be that prices would come down. I don't know that it's going to come down enough to make up for the $3 million grant that we basically would lose.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Mr. Phillips, A.
So as I stated, the first thing we're asking you to do is a resolution, and the entire loan package is in your packet, but it's a resolution to accept the loan, which is $4,998,000. It's a 20-year payback. Again, I said the final interest rate is still not known. Today, at the LGC, they did not set an interest rate. They just approved the loan. I'll get that information as quick as I can. I wasn't able to get it for tonight. I don't know when they'll set the rate, but I'll get you an amortization schedule, whatever that rate is. I do expect it to be the 2%. I think the not to exceed 4 is just the language they're using right now, but they told me around 2%. So the resolution is resolution by a governing body of applicant to accept a state reserve loan.
Do we have a motion for the resolution?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay.
B is the next step. Again, this was a little easier. It's actually a resolution to accept American Rescue Plan funds, $3.2 million. This is the formal resolution to accept the grant for this project.
These are ARPA funds. We have a motion for the resolution by a governing body of recipient.
So moved.
A motion?
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Thank you. C is the third of the 4 items, and that is the capital project ordinance amendment. So on the amendment, you'll see we're recognizing the state reserve loan, $4,998,000, allocating those items, part of it to engineering, part of it to other professional fees. That the $98,000 is the fee to the state for the loan. The $4,519,000 is the addition to construction over what was already there, and then to balance it out, we're actually going to reduce the contingency $4,000, but there is still contingency funds. It's just to balance out that this additional fund was the way to do it. So, so that's the capital project ordinance to accept the loan that you just agreed to accept.
Is there a motion for the capital project ordinance amendment?
I'll make a motion.
There's a motion?
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
You step aside, Mr. Beck discussed the construction bid.
Consideration of construction bids and tentative award. Josh Beck.
Thank you, Mayor. I think Chris hit the vast majority of that. I just want to hit on a couple points. So as Chris mentioned, we did bid it twice. I want to make it clear that before we bid it the first time, we provided Arcadis with a number of firms that we thought would be interested. We actually sent them all the firms that actually bid on the B&R and the Headworks, as well as some firms that they're working with in Greensboro. Of course, worked with Angela. Both times we bid it, we put it in the News and Record, and then Chris also puts it on the state website to try to generate as much activity as we can. As Chris alluded to, I think contractors are just busy. There's a lot of work And so Jay Cumbie, of course, is at our Headworks at our wastewater plant. And this really works well for them because as they wrap up that project towards the end of this year, this one will kind of get started and underway, and they can simply move across town, if you will, and continue on for the next 18 months to 2 years, depending on the actual construction schedule. So we did get 2 bids, both Jay Cumbie and Bar Construction, but as you see in your packet, Bar Construction was roughly $630,000 higher. That's a little less than 10%, so fairly close to each other. But all in all, would love to have more bids. I'm so certainly open to suggestions to try to get more competitive bids in here, especially in the future. But as I said, we have 2 bids in front of you, so we're asking that you accept the bid of Jay Cumbie of $7,019,000, as well as set a small contingency to the side. Again, kind of like what just we approved with the Headworks. We don't know what we might incur throughout the construction, so having a little bit of contingency set aside to go through minor changes or corrections is certainly needed on a project this size. So I'll take any questions that you may have.
Any questions of Mr. Beck? Seeing none. To get a motion for the resolution of tentative award.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. Barbara. Any questions? Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you. Next item on the agenda, consideration of RFQs for on-call engineering services. Enclosure 5, Josh Beck, Public Works Director.
It's the last time, Mayor. So, you guys are hopefully aware, both Steve Moran, being here 28 and a half years, something like that, Chris, and Richard Bone have now retired. Initially, we put out Richard's position for recruitment. Got one applicant during that process, and we reviewed them and decided against interviewing them. And then shortly thereafter, Steve announced his retirement notice, so I actually pulled the civil engineer position because I wanted whoever replaced Steve to recruit their own and have input in who they were going to work with on a daily basis. So, of course, the city has hired a recruiting firm about 6-7 weeks ago now, but has yet to provide us with any applicants. So, in anticipation of that, I drafted this RFQ, and it really serves 2 purposes, just to be clear. So, one of the main purposes, obviously, is kind of a shorter term period in hopes that we get some applicants and we can have an engineering department again. But in the interim, as Jason submits us TRC plans of, fast food joints to subdivisions or whatever private developers may have, they will help assist me in the review of those from the Public Works perspective. As well as answer any questions, work on any multitude of things that we really need. I kind of took both their job descriptions and made sure that tasks within them were embedded in the RFQ. And then the other part, which is more long-term, is to keep them on, and we call it an on-call engineering. So, for example, a good example I'll use is you guys recently acquired the property across from the Penthouse. Well, Summer has asked that engineering public works begin looking at the design and layout of overflow parking for the Penthouse. This would be a small project that we wouldn't want to do a larger RFQ for, but if with this in place, we could simply work with that engineer and say, how about providing me a project very quickly, bring it to you guys, get your approval, and then quickly move into design. So it is a 2-phase on-call service agreement that we're looking at, and that's why it's listed in here that it will the initial contract will be for 3 years with 2 1-year options. So if we like the firm and they continue to provide us great work, we can actually extend it for a total of 5 years. As you see here, I personally reached out to 10 engineering firms locally. Several of them do this type of work, as well as, again, Angela was kind enough to put it in the News and Record for me to advertise this. 2 of the engineers responded that they were unable to take the work due to their own workload, and only 2 actually responded to the RFQ by the deadline outlined. And that's both Davis Martin Powell and McGill and Associates. So both Steve, Chris, and myself then took the RFQ separately and used the matrix provided at the end of it to score each one. I combined all those scores, and we are recommending, based on those scores, that we award the primary contract to McGill Associates and the backup to Davis Martin Powell. And the reason we're doing that is that obviously an engineer, we don't want an engineer reviewing their own work. So say McGill is looking to do a subdivision in Reidsville for a private developer, then we would actually utilize Davis Martin Powell to review those drawings when they come in the city. Or if McGill acknowledges that we have a particular project but they don't have the expertise in it, we could then go and ask Davis Martin Powell if they have the ability to and continue with the project in that manner. So that's the reason for having 2 engineers on this. Again, we will 99% of the time use McGill. It would just be in those 2 situations that we would actually contract for a small or short duration with Davis Martin Powell. I'll be glad to take any questions, concerns, or applicants for the engineering department. So,
question. I got some questions.
Yes, sir.
So, what's the cost associated with them being in the contract?
It's all hourly, so it's all negotiated based on what task we're actually asking them to do. It's not a monthly retainer or anything to that aspect. So whatever we send them, we will get a quote and then pay for that. Obviously, the salary dollars from those positions are there that we will utilize.
So is that hourly rate in comparison to what the salary would be for the 2 engineers we had on hand? I mean,
no, sir.
What is the hourly rate?
Well, the hourly rate is going to vary based on the staff member they're using. That's generally going to be somewhere between $200 and $350 an hour. So this will not be used on a 40-hour work week basis. I want to be clear. We'll use it only as necessary to ensure we're keeping up with what's needed for the city. I don't intend to use these guys 40 hours a week. We simply couldn't afford that. So it's for the projects that come in. If there are certain tasks, like I mentioned, that small parking lot, if that's something that we have a budget for, we can certainly get the price. If that's something summer and you guys want to do, we'll move forward with that, but we'll get pricing before work is released.
Get pricing from them?
Yes, sir.
So what happens when you fulfill these engineering positions?
So when I fulfill them, then we use the longer term portion of this contract. And that's, again, if you guys have, say we want to, I don't know, build another splash pad. I'll just make something up. If that's the desire of council, we could contract directly with them without going through an RFQ because we've already done that. So we would actually request a price from them instead of publishing this for 30 days and then bringing a recommendation of it to you guys to select them and then coming back the next month and giving you the contract amount. It expedites that process. We would go right into the contract negotiations of that cost. And that's why I phrase it that way. I'm hopeful, Councilmember Martin, that we find a candidate and in 30, 45 days, I don't need the city engineer part anymore, but I don't know either.
We're not obligated to use them, period, if we,
no, sir.
We don't need
No, sir. And again, if we feel that if it's a much larger project and we want to put an RFQ out, we certainly have that. This is just an on-call service if we're trying to do something small. I wouldn't do you know, you guys know we're looking at expansion of the water plant, or the wastewater plant, with this study. That's likely to be $15–20 million. I wouldn't use the RFQ. I would put that out as a new RFQ and get solicitation from
Or just
all
like
firms.
in this generator where the engineering fees were $720,000. So you guys wouldn't go to them to use it. You're going to bid that out.
Again, I consider this small things, like if we want to build a shelter and we need a small contract for something like that.
Okay.
It's just another tool in your toolbox while we're going through this transition.
Well, I understood it, but the reason why I asked that was he actually used splash pad as an example, and that's a larger project.
Yeah.
So like, you know, the example of if we were going to build a picnic shelter, you know, at the lake, or a shelter back here like we talked about, or something that makes, I gather the.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Okay.
Just as needed. As needed.
And I have a question. And in the meantime, we will be looking for someone to fill that position, right?
Yes, the recruiting firm is still ongoing. Again, I want to say 6 or 7 weeks they've been out there looking. They've reached back out to us, asking us to do some adjustments of some things. But for the time being, we've told them we're going to hold that course. And so, you know, truthfully, we're trying to cover Steve, Richard, and truthfully, still part of Lindsay's position. So that's one of the other reasons that I feel we needed to move forward with this, to help cover some of that.
If you have, say if you have a project, you reach out to them, you were talking about the cost, so you would discuss the project with them, you'll get an hourly cost from them, then you'd bring that back for approval on the project.
If it's a project, yeah. Yeah. It cuts off roughly about 2 months of that acquisition of the engineer, if you will.
It's the market right now for that position with the American Rescue Funds, engineering firms. I mean, you heard him say that several declined. They have so much work. Unfortunately, it's just the market right now that doesn't work in our favor with trying to recruit.
Well, one of the things I was curious is that, I guess, is the separation of this, because typically you're bidding projects out. So will we typically bid this, like you bid out, I assume, the $720,000 engineering project?
No,
what allows us, and what allows us to start that bidding project on the engineer, because you're engaged in a contract, I'm assuming?
Many Brooks Act does not allow negotiation of contracts with engineers. So you have to do an RFQ. You have to select the engineer that you feel is best fit without discussing any cost. And then only if you can't come to an agreement on the contract can then you go to second tier, if you will, and that's a terrible term, but your second highest ranked firm. Yeah, they're very clear that you can't, you're not, now private world is very different, and again, that we have to follow, but I can't go out and say, I have this project and my scope of payment is $100,000, who's willing to take it? That's not the way it works.
Yeah, so if you had this, for example, McGill's and Withers and Rouse, like for I would use the generator project as an example. Say if Withers came in and said, I would do that project, engineering on that firm for $600,000. McGill's came in and said, I would do it for $700,000. You cannot choose
not based on
Withers
price
off of that over the $100,000 difference.
Nope.
Okay.
Yep.
I wouldn't want to use Withers for anything, but.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Yeah, based on price.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Beck. Consideration of RFQs for on-call engineering. Do we have a motion? For McGill as the lead and Davis Martin Powell as the secondary. We got a second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Next on the agenda is public comments. We have anyone who'd like to make a public comment? Seeing no one moving, we'll move on to board appointments, board and commission appointments. manager's report. And may I introduce you to our new city manager? Mrs. Summer Moore.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I appreciate all your support. I finally found someone after 38 years that would take me, so thank you. So a couple items just to talk about in my report. Just to mark your calendars, please. We will be having a special called meeting to discuss our UDO on October 22nd. It'll be from 3 to 5 p.m. So if that date doesn't work for you, if you'll just let myself or Ms. Stadler know, but if you'll go ahead and mark that. October 22nd UDO meeting from 3 to 5 p.m. A couple of announcements I certainly hope that you can attend. The Employee Relations Committee has met this month, and a couple of announcements. Our Battle of the Cup will resume Thursday, September 26th, so Chief Gibson, bring the cup back, because we're all back in the game looking for it. The police department was the winner of this past year's Battle of the Cup, so it's back up for grabs. This event will be our kickoff event, and it'll be a field day event, and it'll be at the JC Park from 2 to 4 p.m. on Thursday, September 26th. So we'd certainly invite Mayor and Council to attend. Also, if you'll mark your calendars, our management team will host our annual employee stew luncheon on October 31st from 11 to 1 p.m. at the Greenhouse, which is located on the Penthouse property, and it's a floating lunch. And then also I know that calendars tend to start getting full, so if you'll also mark your calendars for our annual employee holiday luncheon, it will be Tuesday, December the 3rd from 11:30 to 1:30 at the Carriage House. And it will be a set lunch at 11:30, so if you can come at that time, please do. If you need to come a little bit later, we certainly understand. And then we've also went ahead and marked for our annual employee appreciation picnic will be Saturday, May 17th, 2025. At the splash pad. So we've got that committee back up and going. A couple of announcements, project updates. Our redundant water line, the easement plat's complete and being mailed to Public Works. We're working with Community Development to sign off, and we've recorded it. Brad McKinney has made 6 offers and settled 5. Once the plat is recorded, Brad can finalize the 5 offers he's currently settled and will continue to make offers to the other affected property owners. One other announcement that I just wanted to make you aware of, we also had our staff luncheon, which was really great. It was our Lunch and Learn event on August 20th. Matt Reese with PTRC, he gave our presentation on our annual pay and comp study for the city of Reidsville. So that was a great event that was attended. So with that, Mayor and Council, I certainly appreciate the opportunity to present my report tonight, and that concludes it.
Thank you, Mrs. Moore. Council member reports. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I've only got a couple of things. On August the 17th, I had the opportunity to do the welcome remarks for the Zion Baptist Church's pastor's installation service, the gentleman that you met this afternoon. August the 24th, I attended the city manager's wedding. And I tell you, it was just a really good day. We're very happy for you. Glad to have been there to support you. On August the 27th, 2-on-2 meetings at City Hall with the city manager and the mayor. And September the 9th, the Lillian H. McLaurin Good Neighbor Association meeting was held.
Okay. Councilmember Dejanay.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a few to report. On August the 24th, I attended the wonderful wedding of Mrs. Moore. It was a fabulous event. We had some fun. And then on the 10th of September, I attended the meeting with the Chamber on the Expo, which is a must-attend event. It's going to be outstanding this year. And then I had the 2-on-2 on August the 27th.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Scoble.
Thank you, Mayor. On August the 22nd, I attended the ABC board meeting. On August the 24th, I agree with everyone else. I attended the most beautiful wedding had such great food, and I wanted to thank you for using so many businesses locally. It was beautiful, and I know they all appreciated it too. And then on August the 27th, I attended the 2-on-2.
Councilman Martin.
I didn't document my dates, but I did attend the 2-on-2s. I attended the meeting with Senator Berger and City Manager Summer when we were able to obtain the funding for the street lights and discuss numerous fundings for other projects, as well as I was invited to her wedding and I did attend.
Make sure you thank Senator Berger. Okay. Councilmember Hurst.
And I'm just summing it up with from all the council members. It's absolutely awesome, breathtaking wedding and historical wedding. In fact, I was city manager being married there in the historical penthouse, and we just, all of us, were so honored to be a part of that. And also want to say that I attended the NAACP monthly meeting and also the 2-on-2 meeting at City Hall. And that's my report.
May I add, it wouldn't have been a wedding without council.
I agree.
What an honor for me. I was so honored.
Yeah. The Reverend here took them across the river.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to make mine short. It's long, but I'll make it short. I have had the honor of giving the greetings for the new pastor at Zion Baptist Church. And I was in attendance at one of the most beautiful weddings I've had an opportunity to attend. Mrs. Moore and Mr. Moore happens to be here tonight. If you would stand up and let everybody see you, Mr. Moore. Yes, and I attended everything everybody else attended, 2-on-2s and all of that. So we'll let it go at that. And we have Diane here tonight to give us some information from the chamber.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody.
Wow.
I'm supposed to start this out by saying I too also attended apparently the highlight of the city for months and years to come. Congratulations. Very, very, very happy for you, and we are excited to continue to celebrate you. I am sorry for my tardiness tonight. I feel like I was at a 3-on-1. Had some children issues, so I was hustling back from the other side of the county. So I do apologize for being tardy, but I do thank you for letting me hop up here really quick because it is our busiest time of the year. There's a lot of stuff happening. The first thing, not really to promote it publicly, but I did want to put it on here just to invite you. Friday, September 20th is our We Would Be Muffin Without You event. So we've been doing some pop-in events with the local businesses, and I would love to invite you, city manager and city council, if you would like to go with any of us that day. We're going to be taking muffins around from the Boardwalk Baker to some of our local businesses. So I'd love to invite you to attend that with us if any of you would like to join up. Several of our board members and ambassadors that you know well, Catherine Church, Eden Combs, like a lot of our crew, they're going to be going and splitting up and visiting folks. So I'd like to invite you to attend with us if you would like to. We have the countywide candidates forum. Very excited about this. We have a candidates profile that we're going to publish. We've had a lot of RSVPs to that, so it should be a very good showing. That is on September 30th. The networking begins at 5:30, and the forum will begin at 6. I do believe there will be 4 rounds, I think is what we have anticipated with the number of folks coming. Fab Festival, as you all know, will be there with the beer garden. Excited about that. I am very excited to talk about our 15th annual Reidsville Everything Expo. Barbara, thank you for attending. and for being a part of that. There's another vendor orientation on Thursday at 4 p.m. We are excited. It is rolling along really well. I have about 25 already registered, and that does not include any of our city departments yet. And I really think it's going to be one of the biggest shows we've ever had. So very thankful to J.R. Cecil and with Liberty Tax Service and Eden Combs with Realty One Group Results for sponsoring that. I think it's going to be awesome. I really do. So we are planning to have the health piece, which is the flu shots and the blood pressure checks and all of that stuff. We're going to have the career piece. There's a lot of people hiring right now. There's several industries that are coming. Farmina's going to be there. Also, Wysong is going to be there, and so we've been talking to several of our industries that are going to have jobs available. So please help us spread the word. We are also offering the online version. If you all remember, if you were with me and followed me then, during COVID, we had 1 year that we weren't able to gather, and so we hosted it online. So if you go online to our website, we're gonna have that up and available for people that can't come. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about a couple of other things that are not on here. Golf tournament was amazing. We were so excited for that. It went really well, and we had a ton of fun. So you missed out if you weren't there, but thank you for your constant support of us. Chilling with my Nomies. We are really excited about Shop Small Saturday this year. We have partnered with the Downtown Corporation and with the merchants to offer is open to any business in Reidsville. So whether they're a downtown business, whether they're a chamber member located anywhere, or whether they're just a business inside the city limits of Reidsville, we've partnered together to offer some moral support for that day, but we are putting together packets to teach them things they can do for social media. We're putting together raffles. We are going to do a gnome hunt downtown that was similar to the elf hunt that Melanie Morrison put together a couple years ago. So really excited about that. We have purchased bags through our partnership with the Downtown Corporation that are going to have the Shop Small Team Reidsville on it. So very excited about that. Ribbon cuttings, we have the Workforce Development Center coming up on Thursday, the 26th, and that's at 10 a.m. out at RCC. And then Ancora Compassionate Care Hospice, you may not be aware, or you may be aware, but they've purchased the old Advanced Home Care building in Wentworth, and they're expanding into that. So that's the address that you see on there. So don't go to hospice, go to the 8380 NC Highway 87, and that's going to be on October 22nd at 10 a.m. So very excited for them. They're having their resale store that they are putting in there, but they have 2 or 3 other pieces that will be going in there. So we'll have more information about that soon. I do think there is also going to be, so this is going to be a quick turnaround. I don't have the information yet. We are looking at the week of the 23rd, doing a ribbon cutting for the new telehealth clinic at Mall Street Elementary School. So as soon as I have that, I will be sending it to Angela and send it to you. It's definitely going to be at 10 a.m. Just don't know what day yet because there's been some conflicts with central office and we're trying to work that out. And I don't know how familiar you are with that project and what's happening, but it's super exciting project with Cone Health and the school system for the kids to be able to stay in school. If they're not well, they can come to the clinic. And they have the telehealth option. And so if it's not something that the kid, like a fever or whatever, if it's not something they can stay at school, then they can be seen and treated and then stay at school. So we can kind of reduce the absenteeism, but also make sure the kids are being seen. So very excited about that project, and we're going to be doing that. The other thing I want to mention that I just talked to Tom today, MPEX is having a huge event on October the 12th. There may be an extension of that until Friday the 11th. So again, that might be a quick turnaround. I should have info soon, but then I'll be back at council the week that it's supposed to be happening. But just wanted you to go ahead and mark your calendar. There could potentially be something on the 11th. There's definitely something on the 12th out at MPEX. So more details to come. Pretty exciting event for them. I'll let them take the glory for that. Coffee and Connections in October will be hosted by The Collective. So we'll be out there. There is a little bit of a conflict that day. That's going to be from 9 to 10, but they are still looking for volunteers. The county is doing that Envision Expo for the 7th graders and the 10th graders. So they are looking for both people to be there in booths, but they're also still looking for volunteers if anybody's available on that Thursday and that Friday. Thursday's the 7th graders, Friday's the 10th graders, and that includes homeschools, it includes the public schools, the charter schools, all the things. So I just wanted to make sure y'all were aware of that if you did not know. Any questions? Okay, have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mayor and Council, if I could add one more thing, if you don't mind. I do just want to remind everyone tomorrow, Chief Farmer and the fire department will be hosting a special event for the 9/11 memorial. It's been 23 years. It'll be at 9 a.m. at Station 1 tomorrow. If anyone would like to attend, it'll be open to the public.
And I'm sure you've noticed on the night that Councilmember Coates is not here. He's got an appointment in the morning that required him to be absent on tonight. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we enjoyed having you here tonight. We don't have a closed session tonight, but we have, I think this is a record for this particular council.
Here it is. Yeah, I think so.
Yes, it is. Just 6 minutes into the new hour. Pretty good time. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Well, yeah, to adjourn.
Motion.
Got a motion? Got a second? Anybody want to stay for an extra 5 minutes? Seeing nobody wants to stay, raise your right hand if you're ready to go. All right. Thank you all for coming out.